सुझाई नहीं देता कुछ भी, हाथ रखता नहीं अम्मा मेरे सर पर कोई, और चंद रोज में मर जाऊंगी मैं घुट घुट कर, जिंदा में सकीना ये बोका करती थी रो कर, क्या अंधेरा है सुझाई नहीं देता कुछ भी, हाथ रखता नहीं अम्मा मेरे सर पर कोई, और चंद रोज में मर जाऊंगी मैं घुट घुट कर, जिंदा में सकीना ये बोका करती थी रो कर, खाक पे सोती हूँ बाबा का नहीं है सीना, कितना दुश्वार है इस दर्द आलम में जीना, रात दिन रोती हूँ कर दे कोई बाबा को खबर, जिंदा में सकीना ये बोका करती थी रो कर, तुम तो कहती थी रिहाई की घड़िया पहुंची, ऐसा लगता है जुदाई की घड़िया पहुंची, ख्वाब में आए थे मेरे अभी दादा हैदर, जिंदा में सकीना ये बोका करती थी रो कर, दम घुटता है अम्मा मेरा अब यहाँ से चलो गए, बोल मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
बारे दिए बुलंदतर सलावत। तुम्हारे साथ यहाँ ज़हरा भी तशरीफ़ लाई थी, तुम्हारे साथ यहाँ ज़हरा भी तशरीफ़ लाई थी, हमें इज़्ज़त भी मिली ए करबला वालो खुदा हाफिज़ खुदा हाफिज़। मुल्तमिस हूँ अदीदी शुजा हैदर से तशरीफ़ लाए बारगाह इमाम में नज़राना पेश करें। मोहम्मद आले मोहम्मद सलावत।
एक नए में से चंद शेर। एक दफ़ा मिलते
کے اور بار دیگر محمد و آل محمد پر صلوات پڑھ دیں. اللہم صلی علی.
بس تیرے ہاتھ میرے سر کی ہے ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، عباس تیرے ہاتھ میرے سر کی ہے ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، یہ ہاتھ کٹ گئے تو کروں گی ردا کا کیا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، عباس تیرے ہاتھ میرے سر کی ہے ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، کون آئے گا بچانے کو تیروں سے بھائی کو، تیروں سے بھائی کو، کون آئے گا بچانے کو تیروں سے بھائی کو، تیروں سے بھائی کو، خنجر چلے گا جب تو کسے دوں گی میں صدا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، ارے خنجر چلے گا جب تو کسے دوں گی میں صدا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، نیزہ ہر ایک ہاتھ میں ہوگا بوقت شام، ہوگا بوقت شام، کس کس سے اپنے سر کی بچاؤں گی میں ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، اس وقت کیا کروں گی جو پیاسی سکینہ کو، ہے پیاسی سکینہ کو، پانی دکھا دکھا کے بہائیں گے اشقیاء، اے شیر تو نہ جا، بھائی ہے تو کسی کا علم ہے، کسی کی آس، ہائے کسی کی آس، بھائی ہے میرے واسطے تو سایہ خدا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، عباس تیرے ہاتھ میرے سر کی ہے ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، ارے بھائی یہ تیرے ہاتھ حرم کی قنات ہے، حرم کی قنات ہیں، پردے کی ابتدا ہے تو پردے کی انتہا،
اے شیر تو نہ جا، آئے گا خون میں ڈوبا ہوا جب علم نوید، ہائے علم نوید، خیمے کے در پہ گونج رہی ہوگی یہ صدا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، عباس تیرے ہاتھ میرے سر کی ہے ردا، اے شیر تو نہ جا، یہ ہاتھ کٹ گئے تو کروں گی ردا کا کیا، اے شیر تو نہ جا۔
بار دیگر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
بار دیگر بلند تر صلوات۔ نہ ہو سکا ہم سے حق کچھ بھی ادا میزبانی کا، نہ ہو سکا ہم سے ادا کچھ بھی حق میزبانی کا، ہے یہ شرمندگی اے کربلا والو خدا حافظ، خدا حافظ۔ ملتمس ہوں جناب نعمان کاظمی صاحب سے کہ فوت سلام کی تشریف لائیں۔ بر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ بارے دیگر بلند تر صلوات۔
اسی جہاں میں کچھ ایسے ذوال احترام آئے، اسی جہاں میں کچھ ایسے ذوال احترام آئے، زباں سے نام لیا عرش سے سلام آئے، اسی جہاں میں کچھ ایسے ذوال احترام آئے، زباں سے نام لیا عرش سے سلام آئے، اور خدا تو سارے ہی بندوں کے کام آتا ہے، خدا تو سارے ہی بندوں کے کام آتا ہے، کچھ ایسے بندے بھی ہیں جو خدا کے کام آئے، کچھ ایسے بندے بھی ہیں جو خدا کے کام آئے۔ درود پڑھ دیجیے۔ سورہ فاتحہ کی گزارش ہے۔ بآواز بلند صلوات۔ چھٹ کر پدر سے بے کسو تنہا تھے عسکری، چھٹ کر پدر سے بے کسو تنہا تھے عسکری، پابند حکم خالق یکتا تھے عسکری، حق کے ولی تھے خلق کے مولا تھے عسکری، احساں تھا جس کا جوش وہ دریا تھے عسکری احساں تھا جس کا جوش وہ دریا تھے عسکری ابر کرم تھے بہر سخا تھے زمانے میں ویسے ہی جیسے ہوتے رہے اس گھرانے میں ویسے ہی جیسے ہوتے رہے اس گھرانے میں بے مثل تھے جو عالم دی حجت الہ کیا قدر جاہلوں میں ہوئی اس کی دم بھر نہ دست ظلم عدو سے ملی پناہ پردیس میں غریب مدینہ ہوا تباہ پردیس میں غریب مدینہ ہوا تباہ صدمے طرح طرح کے رہے ایک جان پر آیا کسی طرح کا نہ شکوہ زبان پر آیا کسی طرح کا نہ شکوہ زبان پر زندان شام سا تو نہیں ہے کوئی مکان مخصوص ہے مصیبت سجاد اس طرح کی زمین ہے کہاں زیر آسمان مسکن بلا کا گھر تھا کہ آفت کا امان مسکن بلا کا گھر تھا کہ آفت کا امان پیدا ہوئے تھے اقرب مار اس کی خاک سے پوچھے کوئی یہ رنج و محن نالے پاک سے پوچھے کوئی یہ رنج و محن نالے پاک سے موقع ملا تو زہر دیا شے کو بے گناہ لخت دل رسول کی حالت ہوئی تباہ بیمار ہو کہ اٹھ نہ سکا حجت مکار معتمد سے نہ ہوگا خدا مکار معتمد سے نہ ہوگا خدا بھیجے طبیب اس نے دوا کرنے کے لیے پوشیدہ اپنا حال جفا کرنے کے لیے پوشیدہ اپنا حال جفا کرنے کے لیے شدت وہ تپ کی زہر کا وہ صدمہ گراں ایسا تھا ذوف کانپتا تھا جس میں ناتوا کم سن ابھی تھے حجت حق صاحب زمان کم سن ابھی تھے حجت حق صاحب زمان تھا دوسرا برس کوئی کہتا ہے پانچواں تھا دوسرا برس کوئی کہتا ہے پانچواں جانے نبی نے بارے امامت اٹھایا اس کم سنی میں کوہ مصیبت اٹھایا جانے نبی نے بارے امامت اٹھایا اس کم سنی میں کوہ मुसीबत उठा लिया, छुट कर पिदर से बेकसो तन्हा थे अस्करी। बहुत बहुत सलावत। शुक्रिया।
हमारे लिए बुलंदतर सलावत। तुम्हारे गम में रोते रोते मर जाते तो अच्छा था, तुम्हारे गम में रोते रोते मर जाते तो अच्छा था। ये हसरत ही रही ए करबला वालो, खुदा हाफिज खुदा हाफिज। मुल्तमिस हूँ जनाब ज़ाकिर अहले बैत बिलाल रिज़वी साहब से तशरीफ़ लाए और मामून से खिताब फरमाएं। बर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलावत। आप ऐसा गुजारिश से आगे आगे तशरीफ़ लाए। नारे हैदरी, मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद सलावत।
رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين، والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والصولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الردوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والحيبة الأسكرية والغيبة الإلهية. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني خالق بشرا من صلصال من حمأ مسنون، فإذا سويته ونفخت فيه من روحي فقعوا له الساجدين، فسجد الملائكة كلهم أجمعون إلا إبليس أبى أن يكون مع الساجدين. قال يا إبليس ما لك أن لا تكون مع الساجدين؟ قال لم أكن لأسجد لبشر خلقته من صلصال من حمأ مسنون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Fatima Zahra, second salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time, a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali. Tonight is the night of the Shahadat of Imam Hassan al-Askari. This night marks the end of that period of history in Tashayyu, which we call Asrun Nas, that within that period of 255 years, and the period preceding that of 13 years where Rasulullah announced his prophethood, we had that period where the Imam was available and in front of us. But after that, when it came to the Shahadat of Imam Hassan al-Askari, the Imam says, كَذَّبَ الْمُوَقِّتُونَ, that after this, anyone who says that they know the time of his reappearance, that individual has lied. And after this, anyone who has claimed to meet the Imam, that individual has lied over there. You find that this period was a shift in the history of Tashayyu. This Imam is born in the 232nd year after Hijrah, and he dies in the 260th year after Hijrah. In other words, you find Imam Hassan al-Askari is poisoned at the age of 28. He becomes Imam at the age of 22. And you find amongst his attributes is this title, Al-Askari. You see, Askar in the Arabic language means an army. And Askari is somebody, either he is the member of an army according to Arabic, or he lives in a land where armies, they would stop. When you look at the history of Samara, you find that the Abbasids at that time, they had many disputes with the Turks. So they wanted a land where they could quell those disputes and they could stay over there. So you find that they made this land of Samara, and it comes from the Arabic word surra man ra'a, that anyone who sees it is pleased because of the beauty over there. So you find this is one of the reasons for his title Askari. But there is one more riwayah which Allama al-Majlisi, he narrates as to why he is called Askari. It is stated that when his father Imam Ali al-Hadi is taken towards Samara, at that time the Khalifa over there, he ordered his army that go and get saddles of wheat, and you stack them on top of each other, and when you build a high surface, I will stand over there. The riwayah, it says that when Imam Ali al-Hadi, he gets over there, you find that he begins to say that look at my dominion and look at my kingdom. That who am I and who are you? After that, you find Imam Ali al-Hadi says that this is your dominion, look in between my two fingers. The moment he looks in between the two fingers of the Imam, he begins to see the malaika over there ready to carry out the azab and the punishment of Allah. So you find after that, this family began to be known. Imam Ali al-Hadi was given his laqab, and later on Imam Hassan al-Askari was given this title Al-Askari. But you find before Imam Hassan al-Askari departs from this world and the Imams transition into this new era, you find that every aspect of guidance for the Shia was given and left behind by the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. That wherever there was an issue that one's Iman might escape them, you find Ahlul Bayt gave institutions that allows an individual to return towards Iman. And one of those institutions is the ziyarah of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. There's a famous hadith from Imam Hassan al-Askari where the Imam, he says, Alamatul mu'min khamsun, that the signs of a mu'min are 5 signs. Al-alamatul ula salatu ahda wa khamsin. The first sign is that a mu'min recites 51 units of prayer every day. The 17 wajib units and the nawafil. The second alama is was ziyaratul arba'in. He goes on the ziyarah of arba'in of Imam al-Hussein. The third sign of a mu'min is at-takhattum bil-yameen. He wears a ring upon his right hand. The fourth sign is wa-ta'firul jabeen. When he does sajda, he does it upon the khak of Karbala. Wal-jahr bi bismillahir rahmanir rahim. And when he recites Bismillah, he recites Bismillah loudly. But over here in this tradition you find Imam Hassan al-Askari is saying that one of the signs of a mu'min is the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. And really the subject of analysis tonight, alongside the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari, is that what is the reality of ziyarah, what are the adab and the etiquettes of ziyarah, and how does one remain attached to the ziyarah of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. When it comes to this discussion, the first basis for this discussion is that people, they ask the question, does ziyarah have any Quranic evidence? That is there any Quranic basis and principle when it comes to the discussion of ziyarah? You find that this issue of ziyarah, the moment Allah said within the Quran that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي خَالِقٌ بَشَرًا مِّن صَلْصَالٍ مِّنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ السَّاجِدِينَ. Allah, He says to the angels that I am going to create a human being out of dry clay which is made of aging mud. And when I have formed him and I have breathed my ruh and my spirit in towards him, what you are going to do is that you are going to do sajda towards Adam. In other words, the first command which Allah gave towards the human being was the ta'zim and the respect of the Khalifa of Allah. That as long as humanity has been there, the first hukam towards the malaika in relation to the human being was what? It was none other than respecting the Khalifa of Allah. And then the Quran says, فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. That all of the malaika, they did sajda towards Adam except for Iblis. So Allah, He says to Iblis, Ya Iblis, مَا لَكَ أَنْ لَا تَكُونَ مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ. That what is it with you that you are not doing sajda before Adam? But then after that, Iblis over here replies with something interesting. Allah, the same words which Allah used in the praise of Adam, Iblis uses those same words to reject Adam. Allah used those words in the tarif and the praise of Adam, and over here Iblis is using those same words to reject Adam. That Iblis, he says that لَمْ أَكُنْ لِأَسْجُدَ لِبَشَرٍ خَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ صَلْصَالٍ مِنْ حَمَإٍ مَسْنُونٍ. That human which you made out of drying clay of aging mud, I won't do sajda towards him. In other words, if anyone goes to the words of Allah in the Quran, and instead of deriving the fadail of Allah's Khalifa, they try to lower the status of Allah's Khalifa, then you find the first to do that is shaitan, and they're following the sunnah of shaitan. Because what did shaitan do? Shaitan took Allah's words, which were in the praise of his Khalifa, he turned it around, he said, oh Allah, that human being I won't do sajda towards. So you find Allah, He demands this respect. But in another ayat, when it comes to this incident, Allah says, مَا مَنَأَكَ أَن تَسْجُدَ لِمَا خَلَقْتُ بِيَدَيَّ. That, O Adam, what prevents you from doing sajda towards that which I created with my hands? And then after that, Allah, He gives two options only. Either you're in this group or you're in that group. Allah says, Astakbarta am kunta min al-aleen. That are you arrogant or are you amongst the elevated and the aleen? Over here, this is a complete taqsim al-tunai, as we call in mantiq. It's a dual division right there. There is no option 3. Either you are arrogant or you are from the elevated. In other words, there must have been a group of individuals that Allah is saying that only two groups are not doing sajda. The first group is the one which has ghurur and arrogance. But the second group is such a group that they were elevated in the eyes of Allah to such an extent that when Allah says to the angels, do sajda before Adam, it wasn't worthy for this group to do sajda. Because this group in the eyes of Allah is greater than Adam. And over here the ayat doesn't say Am kunta min al-ali. It says min al-alin, it is jama, it is plural. In other words, it wasn't just one individual. If someone says that this ayat could be referring to Rasulullah, we say without a doubt that Rasulullah is within that group. But the issue is the ayat is plural. That means there were other individuals alongside Rasulullah that when Allah says do sajda before Adam, you find those individuals didn't have to do sajda. So you find at that moment of creation, that issue of ziyarah, it was solved. The primary question to ask is that, is this individual the Khalifa of Allah or is he not the Khalifa of Allah? If that individual is the Khalifa of Allah, then at that moment, ta'adeen, his respect and his ziyarah, it becomes mandatory. You know, when you go to the haram of Amir al-Mu'mineen, one of the ash'ar, one of the poetry, which is written on the grave of the Imam, is a line of poetry by a Mu'tazili Sunni by the name of Ibn al-Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili. Ibn Abil Hadid al-Mu'tazili, in that line of poetry which is on the grave of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he writes that Ya barku in ji'ta al-gharif qul lahu aturaka ta'lam man bi ardika mawdi'u. That, O lightning, O Bijli, when you come to the land of Najaf, say to the land of Najaf, do you know who is buried within you? Then after that you say, Fika ibnu Imran al-Kalim wa ba'dahu Isa yuqafihi wa Ahmadu yatba'u. That, O land of Najaf, in you is Musa, in you is Isa, in you is Rasulullah. That what does the poet mean? Isa isn't buried in Najaf, Rasulullah isn't buried in Najaf, Musa isn't buried in Najaf. No, after that he says, Bal fika nurullah jalla jalaluhu. But rather within you the nur of Allah, it rests. And then he says after that, Fika al-Imam al-Murtada wa Wasi al-Mustafa. Because the wujud of Ali bin Abi Talib is within you, Adam is there. And Nuh is there, and Musa is there, and Isa is there, and Rasulullah is there. So you find this is that essence of ziyarah. Now the first point about ziyarah is that whenever you recite any ziyarah, whether it is ziyaratul ashura, ziyaratul warita, ziyaratul jamia, which the father of Imam Hassan al-Askari gave, you find the secret behind this ziyarah is that each of these words are sadir, they're coming from the ma'soom. In other words, when you read the ziyarat, you are not listening to the fadail of Ahlul Bayt from any zakir, from any molvi, from any reciter. But when you recite these ziyarat, you are reciting the fadail of Ahlul Bayt from the tongue of Ahlul Bayt. And none knows Muhammad and Ali Muhammad better than Ali Muhammad. That's why the Imam, he says to his companion Mufaddal ibn Umar, that O Mufaddal, إِذَا أَتَيْتَ قَبْرَ الْحُسَيْنِ فَقُفْ بِالْبَابِ وَقُلْ هَذِهِ الْكَلِمَاتِ. That O Mufaddal, when you come to the door of Imam al-Hussein, stand at the door and say these words, O Mufaddal. O Mufaddal, don't say any other word. فَإِنَّ لَكَ كِفْلًا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. Because when you say these words, Allah's rahmat comes upon you. In other words, what is Ahlul Bayt saying? Ahlul Bayt are saying, we understand that you are our lovers. And we understand that when you come to ziyarah, you come with ishq. But the peak of ishq is that you don't bring your own thoughts into understanding us. but rather you understand us in the way we've taught you for us to be understood. And even when you come to our ziyarat, you don't use your own words. You address us with the words that we have given you. You know, there's many individuals, they'll say Karbala is this, Karbala is that. If anyone claims this is what Karbala is, there's one simple formula. To ask them that which hadith is this mentioned in? Which ziyarat is this mentioned in? Because the highest reality of Karbala is that Karbala is an ahad and a covenant between Allah and Sayyid al-Shuhada. You find this is that essence of ziyarah, that the zawar of Imam al-Hussein, of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, they're at the level of ishq where their ishq has become taslim and submission. You know, in Imam Hassan al-Askari's time period, there was an individual. In the time of Imam Hassan al-Askari, there was an individual by the name of Ishaq al-Kindi. Ishaq al-Kindi, he writes a book called Tanaqud al-Quran, that the Quran has contradictions in it. There are certain verses that contradict other verses. Now at that time, that book had become very popular. There was an issue which is going on. People were beginning to lose faith, so they come to Imam Hassan al-Askari. One of the students of Imam Hassan al-Askari, one of his companions, he says, "Oh Imam, how are we going to solve this issue?" The Imam says, "Go to Ishaq al-Kindi, become his student and earn his trust. And after you have earned his trust, then come back towards me." You see, this individual was a Sahabi of the Imam. Without a doubt, he had ishq for the Imam. But when he was there with that individual, how many times would that individual insult the Quran? He didn't let his emotion get the best of him. He always remained in the daira, in the circle of taslim. After time it goes on, and you find he gains the trust of that individual. He comes back to Imam Hassan al-Askari. The Imam says, go back towards Ishaq al-Kindi and ask Ishaq al-Kindi that is it possible that what was meant by the revealer by Allah is different than what you have understood from the Quran? You know, what the murad of Allah is that different from the mafhum which you took out? You find when this individual, he goes back to Ishaq al-Kindi, he repeats this line, he says, "Oh man, is it possible Allah meant something else and you understood something else?" You find at that moment he begins to think. And he says something ajib. He says, "Ma allamaka hada." He says, "Who taught you this?" The man says, "I learned it myself." He says, "No, this isn't your ma'yar and your caliber. The one who told you this, his caliber of understanding is even beyond my intellect." And you find the companion replies by saying, "The grandson of Rasulullah, the son of Ali al-Hadi, the one who is al-Hassan, the one whose title is Askari told me this." So you find this is that reality of the Imam. So one of the functions of ziyarah, in the way this companion of the Imam was within the daira of taslim and submission, one of the goals of ziyarah is that ziyarah brings you to the maqam of taslim. And when you come to the maqam of taslim, you find in another narration, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Imam al-Sadiq says to his companion, Al-Qama. Al-Qama is that Sahabi who is the Ravi and the narrator of Ziyaratul Ashura and Dua al-Qama. The Imam says to Al-Qama, that, "Oh Al-Qama," he's speaking about Ziyaratul Ashura, that when you come, فَإِذَا أَتَيْتَ قَبْرَ الْحُسَيْنِ, He says, ta'ahad bihadih ziyara. Wad'u bihadih du'a. That when you come to the grave of Imam al-Hussein, hold on to this ziyara and recite this dua. Because if you do that, فَإِنِّي ضَامِنٌ لَكَ أَنَّ زِيَارَتَكَ مَقْبُولَةٌ وَسَعْيَكَ مَشْكُورٌ وَسَلَامَكَ وَاصِلٌ غَيْرُ الْمَحْجُوبِ. He says that if you hold on to this ziyara, the first sign is that your ziyara will be accepted. The second sign is that Allah will appreciate it. And the third sign is that there will be no hijab and veil upon your salam towards the Imam. You see, when you send salam, the reply of salam is something wajib. That the reply of salam is something wajib. So when you turn towards Karbala or towards Samara and you send salam upon the Imam replies. But the question is, what form does that reply come in? You find that reply comes in the form of nur and light within the heart of an individual. That reply, it comes in the form of ma'rifah and understanding. That reply, it comes in the form of the raghba of ziyara. And you find all of these concepts are mentioned within the tradition. So you find from the first etiquette of ziyara is that an individual recognizes that these words of ziyara come from the ma'sumin. The second etiquette of ziyara is what Ayatollah Bahjat would say is the greatest adab of ziyara. And that greatest adab of ziyara is that you recognize when it comes to the ma'sumin, there is no difference between their death and their life. That when it comes to the ma'soom, Rasulullah says, Man zarana fi hayatina ka man zarana ba'da mamatina. That the one who does our ziyarah while we are, after we have passed away, is like the one who has done our ziyarah when we are alive. That's why when you go towards Karbala, towards Samara, towards Qarnayn, one of the acts which you carry out is you recite the Ibn Dukhul, you ask for permission to enter. If somebody is dead, you don't ask them for permission. Only if somebody is alive do you take ijaza. And when you take ijaza, you say, Ashhadu annaka rasulaka wa khulafa'ak ahyaun indaka yurzaqun. Yarawna maqami wa yasma'una kalami wa yarudduna salami. That you say, oh Allah, I testify that you're awliya, that you're nabi, that they are alive taking the risk of Allah. And they see my maqam, they hear my kalam and my speech, and they reply towards my salam. So you find that is that essence of ziyarah. But from the third level, one needs to ask that what is ziyarah? You see, ziyarah is from amongst the sha'air al-Husayniyah. You know, oftentimes in MAJLIS, you hear this term, the sha'air of Imam al-Hussein. But according to the Quran, the question that needs to be asked is that what is a sha'air? And to understand what is a sha'air, there's one basic discussion that needs to be understood. And that discussion is this, is that whenever you have different objects, it's possible that the madda and the matter is the same, but the surah and the form is different. For example, the matter and the madda of this member is wood. The takht over there, the madda is also wood. But what differs? What is differing is that the form, it differs. Sometimes the form is completely different. There's no relation. From the ground a tree comes, a ground a flower comes, there's no relation. But sometimes the matter is the same. The surah keeps changing towards kamal and perfection. For example, from the minerals of the earth, a plant, it comes. That plant, it becomes a tree. That tree, it becomes a fruit. A human eats that fruit. It becomes a part of the flesh of a human being. It's moving towards perfection. Now, when it comes to Islamic theology, you find there were two areas where this discussion was very prominently discussed amongst the mutakallimun. The first area is that there was a discussion in Islamic theology and aqaid is your jaza and your reward for an action something which is a new hukum of Allah, or is it that same action in a different form? For example, the Quran says, تُجْزَوْنَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ, that you will be rewarded for what you used to carry out. In other words, you will be rewarded through that action. Allah says, the one who says, La ilaha illallah, for him is a tree in paradise. So in other words, what they said is that these actions within this world, that ajr and that reward in the hereafter is the same action, but its form is different. So if the Imam says, Man anshada feena bayta shairan banallahu lahu baytan fil jannah, that the one who recites 2 lines of poetry for us Ahlul Bayt, the one who recites 1 bayt of poetry for us Ahlul Bayt, his reward is a house in paradise. In this dunya, the surah is that poetry. In the akhirah, that surah and the form is that house in paradise and jannat. In other words, one's jannat and heaven is created upon this earth. You know, one individual comes to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. The Imam says to that individual, Umrun fi jinani hadhihi dunya, that go towards the heavens of this earth. That Sahabi says, oh Imam, what do you mean? There's no heaven upon this earth. Imam al-Sadiq replies by saying, I will tell you something that if you hold on to that, you will never leave heaven. The companion says, oh Imam, what do you mean? The Imam, he says, Inna wilayatana al-Jannah, that the wilayah of us, Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, is that paradise upon that earth. You know, when the Quran, it speaks of heaven and paradise, right? The Quran always uses that pronoun which is for far. Tilka al-Jannah. Nurituha lil-ibadina man kana taqiyya. That heaven, wo Jannat. The Quran never says, ye Jannat, or this heaven. That at one level the Mufassirun say is for the humans to always have effort and to strive for paradise. But you know, on the night of Shab-e Ashur, Imam al-Hussein, when he goes to Nafi, he says something else. When Imam, he speaks to Nafi, he says, oh Nafi, not that paradise. He says, oh Nafi, hadihil jannah qad futihat abwabuha. That he says, oh Nafi, this paradise, its doors have already been opened for you, oh Nafi. In other words, the Quran is saying that paradise. But when Imam al-Hussein speaks to his companions, he says, this Jannah, this heaven is in front of you. The Imam is showing that one of that mechanisms, that fastest route towards paradise is holding on to Sayyid al-Shuhada. You know, there's one riwayah in Tafsir Nur al-Thaqalain. There's a verse of the Quran that says, فَوَسِيكَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا, that those who are muttaqi and God conscious, Allah will drag them into paradise. Now if somebody is going to Jahannam, it makes sense to drag that individual. Why would anyone need to be dragged towards heaven? When the doors of heaven open, the blessings of heaven are seen, an individual should run towards heaven. Imam al-Sadiq in a tradition says that this ayat, the ta'weel of this ayat, not the tafsir, the specific application of this ayat, is that this verse is for the khuddam and the servants of Imam al-Hussein. They said, oh Imam al-Sadiq, what do you mean? He says that before these individuals, they enter paradise, they'll say to Allah, oh Allah, in our life we spent it serving Hussein. Before we enter Jannah, we want to do the ziyarah of the Imam. And Imam al-Hussein will come in front of those individuals. And as Imam al-Hussein is in front of them, you find the doors of paradise are open, but they're not moving towards those doors. and Allah will take and drag them towards paradise. وَسِيكَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ زُمَرًا. So you find this is that reality. So at one level, this discussion in Islamic theology comes in the discussion of amal and jaza, action and reward. But the second place, this discussion of madda and surah which I began, that discussion, it comes on the levels of iman. You see, when it comes to iman, the madda and the form is the same. Al-i'tiqad billah wa rasulihi wal a'imma. That an individual believes in Allah, His Prophet, and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, but you find the form is different and it is moving towards kamal and perfection. You see, according to the Quran, the lowest level of iman is that which is within the fitrah and within your nature. The Quran, it says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةُ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. That, O human being, turn towards your nature upon which God created you. You know, that's why when an individual comes to Imam as-Sadiq, and he says to Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, he says to the Imam, Dallani ala Allah, that, oh Imam, can you give me some proof for the wujud and the existence of Allah? The Imam says to him, Hal rakibta safinata qat? That have you ever been upon a ship? That man, he says, yes, I have. You know, the Imam didn't have to ask him, what is your entire history? The Imam, he asked him, the man says, yes, I have. Then the Imam after that says, has that ship ever turned over? He says, yes, there was one time where the ship had turned over. Then the Imam says, was there anyone to help you? He says, no one was there to help me. The Imam says, at that moment, did you have ummeed or were you la ummeed? That did you have hope or were you hopeless? The man says, I had hope, even though no one was there. The Imam says, that hope in your heart is a dalil to the wujud and the existence of Allah. The Imam says, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا. That when a person looks in their fitrah, you find that iman is there. This is the first daraja. The second daraja of iman is within the aql and the rationale. The Quran says there's a group of individuals, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. That, oh Allah, they would remember Allah standing, sitting upon their sides, and they would say, oh Allah, you didn't create all of this in vain. In other words, the Quran is showing these individuals, they did tafakkur, they did reflection, they understood. This is the second level of iman. But the highest level of iman, more than the fitrat, more than the aqal, is the realm of ahsas and realization. The Quran says there is a group of individuals, وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ تَرَى أَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمِ مِمَّا عَرَفُوا مِنَ الْحَقِّ. That there is a group of individuals that when Allah's ayat and His signs are recited to them, their eyes begin to fill with tears because they recognize the truth. In other words, this iman is not just in the mind. This iman is in their wujud, in their asas, in their very being. Now I come back to the discussion of what is a sha'air. You see, this word sha'air is used within the Quran. The Quran says, Inna Safa wal Marwa min sha'air Allah. That Safa and Marwa are from Allah's sha'air. Wal Budna ja'alnaha laka min sha'air Allah. That animal which you sacrifice at Hajj is from Allah's sha'air. So what is a sha'air? In a very simple definition, a sha'air is something which takes you to the highest level of iman. A sha'air takes you to the realm of ahsas and realization. You know, our entire life, we know to stay away from shaitan. But when we go to Hajj and we pick up the stones and we throw them at the statue of Shaitan, at that point, that idea within our mind, because we're carrying it out, there is a type of ahsas and realization because of the sha'air of Hajj. Now I come to the sha'air of Imam al-Hussein. When people, they ask, why do you need an alam? Why do you need a tabut? Why do you need all of these different replicas? We say that understanding of a Hussein which we have in the intellect, we want to take it to the realm of ahsas and realization. That when an individual lifts the tabut upon their shoulder, it is a commitment that they're making, O Hussein. If I was there on the day of Ashura, I wouldn't have left your body upon the ground. So you find each of these sha'air of Imam al-Hussein is taking an individual to the realm of asas and towards the realm of realization. And you find amongst the greatest of them is the ziyarah of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That's why the father of Imam Hassan al-Askari, Imam Ali al-Hadi salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, when one of the companions of Imam Ali al-Hadi is going towards Karbala, the Imam says to his companion that make dua for me at the grave of my grandfather Hussein. That Sahabi says, oh Imam, you are the Imam. Your duas are already accepted. Why are you asking me to make dua at the grave of your grandfather? Imam Ali al-Hadi says, it is so that you can understand the maqam of my grandfather Hussein and the ziyarah of my grandfather. So you find each of these imams, one after another, will emphasize the ziyarah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And Imam Hassan al-Askari, when he would mention the signs of a mu'min, one of the signs is the ziyarah of Arba'een. You see, this Imam, within his imamat, as I mentioned, that after his death, the period of Asrun Nas, the period of the Imams being openly available, that period had ended. Before the Imam, he passes away, you find that he lays the foundation of the wukala and the deputy system. For example, you find that the first of the wukala is an individual by the name of Uthman ibn Syed. After that is his son Muhammad ibn Uthman. After that is Hussein ibn Rawh al-Nabakhti. And after that it is Ali ibn al-Hussein al-Samarri. The Imam would say that after I have passed away, these individuals will be the point of communication. You see, the period after the death of Imam Hassan al-Askari is that period which the works of history will say that this is Asrul Hira. Hira within the Arabic language means the time of utter confusion. That you can imagine that for all of these different years, the Shia have had the Imam in front of them. But now a situation is coming where the Imam is in occultation. Now you don't go directly to the Imam, you go towards the deputies and Ghaibatul Sughra, and then when Ghaibatul Kubra begins, nobody is allowed to say that they have met Imam al-Zaman. So you find in these incidents that before Imam Hassan al-Askari departs, you find he did everything for the hidayah of the ummah. Another incident from the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari is that Imam Hassan al-Askari at his time, there were a number of individuals who were converting to Christianity. They said that, why is this happening? They said, oh Imam, there is an individual, a monk, that when he makes dua, the moment he makes dua, rain it begins to fall. Imam Hassan al-Askari says that, let me go and watch this individual. When the Imam, he goes and he watches that individual, he says to his companion, now go and take that item from his hand. The moment that companion takes the item from the hand of that individual, Imam Hassan al-Askari, he says that this item which he had in his hand is the bone of a prophet. And because he had this bone of a Nabi, you find that the du'as of this individual are accepted. So you find in one way the Imam showed that his ilm is a mu'jiza and a miracle, number one. Number two, Imam Hassan al-Askari would guide the people through his akhlaq and his adab. That how would he guide with his akhlaq? As I mentioned, that at the age of 22, he becomes Imam. When he is 22 years old, his father is Shaheed. After that, the Abbasid Khulafa, they would put Imam Hassan al-Askari in house arrest. What house arrest means is that nobody leaves his house and nobody enters his house except by the permission of the guards, and the guards would give whatever they want towards them. You know, for 2.5 years, every day Imam Hassan al-Askari would eat 2 loaves of bread. Imagine, 2 pieces of bread. All day is what they would give to Imam Hassan al-Askari. One riwayat says one of his companions, he brings 5 pomegranates to Imam Hassan al-Askari. That Imam would eat 2 pieces of bread. As he's about to eat the pomegranate, he notices that the guard is watching. Imam Hassan al-Askari says, "Oh guard, take a pomegranate." That guard says, "No, I don't want it. I know that you're in this situation." He says, "No, take it." The man takes 1 pomegranate. Imam al-Askari is watching that individual. After he took that pomegranate, he's not eating that pomegranate. Imam al-Askari says, "Oh man, what's the issue? What's the problem? Why are you not eating it?" He says, "My family is going through a difficult time. My children don't have anything to eat." You know what that Imam who would eat 2 pieces of bread, he does? He takes the rest of those 4 pomegranates. He says, "Oh man, this is yours now." This is Imam Hassan al-Askari. You know, one guard, he narrates that when I came to Imam Hassan al-Askari, I saw that there was a sheet laying on the ground. So I went to someone else and I said, that is Hassan al-Askari dead? Has he passed away? They reply by saying that, "Do you not know that this is that man that in hours and hours he will remain in sajda?" This is that Imam, that any guard who would come, you find that he would change their destiny, would bring them towards the path of Iman oftentimes. And you find in this manner, when the influence of the Imam was increasing, they poisoned Imam Hassan al-Askari. You know, each poison which was given to Ahlul Bayt, each different type of poison had a specific impact. When Ibn Muljam, he dipped the sword in poison and he struck the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it stated that the color of the Imam, it began to change. To the point that one companion would say, Sa'sa ibn Sohan, that I couldn't tell that where does the bandage on the head of Ali end and where does the flesh of Ali it begin. When Imam al-Hassan was given poison, you find what was the quality of that poison, that Imam al-Hassan, he begins to vomit pieces of his liver. And as he's vomiting these pieces, he says to Imam al-Hussein, "Cover the bowl." The Imam says, "Why should I cover the bowl?" Imam al-Hassan says, "I don't want my sister Zainab and Kulthum to see this." I say, "Oh Imam al-Hassan, what did Zainab see in Karbala when that moment it came, وَالشِّمَرْ جَالِسٌ عَلَى صَدْرِ الْحُسَيْنِ?" But it stated when Imam Hassan al-Askari was given poison, that this was such a poison that Imam al-Hassan al-Askari's body wasn't able to move. That the Imam would attempt to drink water, and as he would attempt to drink water, he wouldn't be able to lift the bowl towards his mouth. And as he's not able to do this, it stated a 5-year-old child, that Imam who became yatim upon this day, he comes and he goes and he gives water towards his father. You find everyone, they leave the room. Imam Hassan al-Askari passes away. But I say, oh Imam al-Zaman, that when your father passed away, they gave kafan towards your father. That when he passed away, that body, it didn't lay there for 3 days. But I say, what did Imam Zainul Abidin see upon the 13th of Muharram? You know, when Imam Zainul Abidin returned towards Karbala, he saw that the bodies were scattered through the plains of Karbala. And when he saw the bodies were scattered, he goes towards the body of his father, Imam al-Hussein. At that point, Banu Asad, they come to the Imam, they say, oh man, how shall we bury the bodies? The Imam, he says, make one grave for the companions. You know, they had already buried Habib ibn Madayr separately. As they were making a grave for the companions, they come to Imam Zainul Abidin and they say, oh Khadi, O captive, there is one body by the Furat. When we pick one side of the body, the other side it falls to the ground. And when we pick the other side of the body, the other side falls to the ground. The Imam says, that is the body of my Chacha Abbas, I will bury that body. Then after that, the Imam says, oh Banu Asad, step back at this moment. It's stated that the Imam, he places his Abba on the ground. Then why does he place his Abba on the ground? At that moment, he begins to collect the pieces of his father. He begins to bury Imam al-Hussein. You know, when he's burying the body of Imam al-Hussein, the riwayah, it says that a voice, it came from the cut body of the Imam, and that voice, it said, Tifli, Tifli, that where is my child? Imam Zain al-Abidin says, oh Banu Asad, where is the body of the 6-month infant? Imam Zain al-Abidin, he buries Ali Asghar on the chest of Imam al-Hussein. He buries Ali Akbar by the feet of Imam al-Hussein. He writes on the grave, Hada qabr Abi Abdullah, alladhi qutila gharib wa adshana. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-dhalimin. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون يا حسين
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein.
हाय मारा हसन अस्करी को बोलने जिस ये बात कल्ब मुझते हाय मारा हसन अस्करी को और लुट गया फातिमा का भरा गए हाय मारा हसन अस्करी को अरे उठ गया हमारा अरे मर गया बेकसों का सहारा हर तरफ घर में महशर है बरपा عسکری کو. ایک حضرات کو کیا اجل آئی, ہو گئی سارے گھر کی تباہی. کوئی مونس ہے نا یاور, ہائے مارا حسن عسکری کو.